What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the garage. It's a cold one here in South Texas, but we got to keep moving forward. I know I promised you guys some CJ content coming up, but after my last video when I installed seats in the old OBS, she quit starting. So we're going to do some work on that, do some troubleshooting, and try to figure out why she won't run. So this started right after I put the seats in the last video. I went to go move the truck back to where it's supposed to live, and she wouldn't start. Just cranks and cranks and cranks. I got it to start for a little while, but it was idling funny. It was idling up and down. I drove it around the neighborhood, parked it again. I thought everything was okay. Maybe I just flooded it from having the key on and off a few times. But then I went out the next day to drive it to go do an errand, and it wouldn't run. I did get it to start long enough to get it backed into the garage here and get it up on the service ramp so we can take a look at it. At least it's not outside in the cold. But we're going to have a look at what's going on and try to do some troubleshooting and figure out what's going on and why it won't run. So we all know these trucks, an engine in general, takes three things to run. You got to have air, you got to have fuel, and you got to have spark. I know I have air because the filter is not clogged up that bad. I've taken the filter off and it still won't run. So we're going to look at fuel and we're going to look at spark. The first thing we're going to do, I picked up this kit that allows, it's a fuel pressure testing kit. Okay, so it's got all the different connections that you could use for all the different vehicles to test fuel pressure using this gauge. We're going to get that thing connected up and turn the key on and see how our fuel pressure looks, make sure it's not our fuel pump. While we're in there, since we have to bypass the filter anyway to connect the hose, we're going to go ahead and replace the fuel filter. I'm hoping that's the problem because I really don't want this to be a fuel pump issue because that's a big undertaking. Got to take the whole bed off or lift the bed up to get to the fuel pump. The next thing on the list is going to be spark. I did pull the plugs, or one of the plugs, to make sure I was getting spark, and I am, but they look pretty dirty. So we're going to go ahead and change the plugs. And while I'm in there, I'm going to do wires, rotor and cap, and then we're going to do a little prettying it up. So I'm going with red and black under the hood for my color theme. So I got black cables, and then we're going to do red heat shields and red, these are the little holders that hold everything in place. And I got these heat shields because the factory heat shields on the exhaust manifolds are rattling. So I want to take those off anyway. And then these will help protect the plug wires from the exhaust. So that's the plan of attack. So I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit in here. I got the heater going. You can see over there. It's cold. It's like in the low 40s. So it's gonna take a little while to get warmed up in here. But once we get it warmed up, I'm gonna get started. First off with the fuel, and we'll have a look at that, and then we'll work our way through the spark plugs and wires and everything. Hopefully we'll get this thing started because I need it so I can get the wheels and tires for the CJ to the shop to get them stripped down so I can get them out to powder coat. So you got to have a truck to do truck stuff. So we got to get it going. All right, let's get on it. Quick rundown on how this works. This is the replacement filter, but it's a general idea of what we're looking at here. So this hose has the same size ends on both ends as this fitting on this. So underneath the truck, and I'll show you that in a minute, you disconnect the fuel lines from each side of this filter, and you connect this hose in its place on both sides. Then you connect your gauge to this port here, and when you turn the key on, you should get fuel pressure reading on that gauge. So that's the plan. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to record under there. The fuel filter is inside the frame rail just under the driver's door here. So I'm going to get under there and get it disconnected, get this hose connected, and then we'll see what kind of fuel pressure we have. Well, guys, that didn't go nearly as smoothly as I had hoped. That was a major fail. So let me show you. So this is the bypass hose, and I verified that socket and this socket were the same size, but this one's not deep enough. So the rigid fuel line sticks out far enough that it hits inside there before the threads will engage. So until I could get the other filter out of the package back under the truck and mounted, I was pouring fuel all over the ground. You can see the stain there. But I got the new filter in. It's not completely tight. I just snugged it up for now. But this is what came out of the old filter. And I haven't even hit it with like compressed air to see. That's just what poured out. That's nasty. So I think this was definitely needing a change. I'm gonna hit it with some compressed air and see what else comes out of there, but that for sure needed a change, so I'm hoping that helps. Well guys, I told myself I was going to do this in phases, so I knew exactly what was causing the problem. I wanted to try to start the truck in between each step just to see, just so that I knew what it was. I did not expect it to start, but it started right up faster than it ever has on a cold start. So I feel like that fuel filter was probably the problem. I turned the key on. I was just going to, you know, let it prime because I figured there's a lot of air in that line with the filter and everything getting changed. I hit the key expecting it to spin a few times and it fired right off. So I'm going to let it idle for a little while because it has done this in the past since it started acting up, only to idle for a few minutes and then start stuttering and die again. So I'm going to crack open the door back there to get some airflow and just let it idle for a little while, but it seems like it was the fuel filter. I still plan on doing all the other stuff, but I'm really happy that I'm getting results already because I was concerned with it being something that was outside of my expertise and having to really dive into this thing. So we'll let it idle for a while and I'll come back and let y'all know if it starts idling erratic or cutting out. All right, I let it idle for a few more minutes and it seems to be pretty stable. I didn't want to let it idle too long because I'm going to be working under the engine, under the hood here with the other items on the list. I'm going to be replacing the plugs on both sides, the plug wires, the rotor and the cap, and I'm going to be taking these heat shields off, these in here too, because they rattle at idle and it's very annoying. So I'm just going to put those sleeves on there to keep it from burning up my wires, and then I can take those off and it won't be so loud. Same for this side. So I'm going to get started on the plugs first. Looks like that's going to be the easiest thing to do. And then we'll lay out the wires and get them ran, and then we'll do the rotor and the cap. All right. Just checking the spark plug gap on all of these. GM calls for 0.35, and I've checked all the rest of them. This one looks good too. Slides right in there with minimal resistance. It's good to double check them. They're pre-gapped from the factory, but just to make sure none of them got banged up in shipping. So we're ready to put them in. All right, so we got all of the plugs swapped out. I went ahead and hooked the plug wires back up so I could start the truck and make sure that it still runs the way it's supposed to make sure nothing got knocked around. I'm going to do a close-up here of the actual plugs. I don't know how to read plugs, but I'm sure somebody in the comments does. If you guys can, I mean, they just look dirty to me. They don't look overly bad or anything. They just look really dirty. So we grab a light. There's a light right here. You can see those. That's 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 didn't want to come out. 8 had some corrosion on the threads there. Had to get a little bit of like a PB blaster to spray on it to get it to come out. But that's them. They look like they needed to be changed. I'm glad we changed them. But I may have been a little premature on celebrating with the fuel filter. So like I said, I got all of the plugs switched out and got the plug wires back on and fired the truck up. And when I first turned it on, it did the same thing where it started and stuttered and died. I held the pedal down and it started, and now it's idling fine, and it's starting 2 or 3 times since then. It started fine, but I don't know that we've found the problem yet, so I'm going to keep moving forward. Next is going to be the wires and the distributor cap and rotor, so we're going to get on that next. Alright, so still moving along here. Got the cap and rotor replaced. Took a little bit of persuasion to get the old rotor off. It was stuck on there pretty good, but it's just pretty burnt. I don't know if you can see inside there. And then the cap itself has got some good corrosion in it, so I'm hoping that's part of the problem as well. Doing this total refresh on this electrical system. So next is going to be replacing these cables. Make sure we get them in the right spot, and then we'll try it out. Alright, so new cap is installed, new wires, new plugs. As you can hear, it's running, seems to be running smoothly. No misses. I used the temp gun to check the exhaust manifold to make sure all the cylinders are putting out heat. So I think it's running on all 8 cylinders. We did find a wire on the cap back there that wasn't plugged in all the way. I don't know if it was just arcing connecting or if it was missing to begin with. But it fired right up a couple of times. It seems to be running better. Only time will tell, I guess, because it seems to be intermittent. I was not able to use these sleeves because the cables I got are 90-degree elbows, and this has a rigid wire in the end of it. It wouldn't go over the end. That's going to be it for now. I'm going to let it idle and run for a little while and see how it feels, how it sounds. I may take it for a loop around the block. This project is done. Alright, so what we did not fix it. I want to get it on video what it's doing here. So we're going to try starting it without any throttle input and just a normal start. Go ahead. The battery's a little low, but you can see that it's outputting fuel. The fuel's going into the cylinder or into the intake there. I'm not sure what the smoky looking stuff is. I guess fuel vapors. Alright, so battery was a little weak, so I got a jumper cables hooked up, but we're going to try flood recovery mode, where it's where you floor the throttle and then try to start the vehicle. So we're going to try that now and see what happens. Go ahead. Go ahead. One more time. Again. As you can see, it's putting out fuel. It just will not run. Or stumped. I don't know what to do. Alright, so I was able to rig up a bunch of different connectors to get this fuel pressure gauge connected to the output that goes into the TBI. I can't start the truck because it's just capped off, but at least we can read the pressure. So I'm going to turn the key on here and see what pressure we get. Go ahead. Runs up to just under 20, so about 18, 16. So, I mean, it's going back down a little bit. Looks like it's about 15 now. But it has pressure, so, I mean, it's working. All right, so a quick trip to the auto parts store. I got some more fuel line so that I could make this a pass-through pressure reader. And I know in the video earlier we had pressure, but we don't now. When we turn the key on, go ahead. Keys on, no pressure at all. And I tested the pressure with my air chuck and it reads pressure with that. Go ahead and try to start it. But it sprays fuel. I guess just not enough to start. It seems like a lot of fuel though. So I guess I'm ordering a fuel pump. That'll be next on the list. But for now, I'm done. I don't have anything else to do, so we gotta wait. Well guys, it's a very unfortunate turn of events. The items that we completed did not fix the problem. It looks like it is going to be a fuel pump issue. I don't know why it read pressure the one time, but that makes sense because sometimes it'll run it, sometimes it won't. It seems that the fuel pump is intermittent. So I'm going to go ahead and order a new fuel pump and get that inbound so that we can get that changed out. I'm hoping I can just unbolt and lift up side of the bed and not have to drop the tank, because one of the last things I did before all of this started happening was fill up with fuel. So the tank is completely full, and that's going to be a real pain to have to drop the tank. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you get updates on the next video so we can try to figure this out and get it fixed. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me and helping me out here. Give me some feedback. Check out those plugs. Check out the video. Let me know if you see something that maybe I missed, something that maybe you could fix this. Let me know in the comments. But for now, we're going to finish this one up. I'm going to go inside and warm up. You guys have a good one and rock on.